talked about some of the transitions from the various generations onto the Z. One view perhaps could be, and I'm just curious to get your view, which is that we mentioned that they come in like a tornado, but is it not fair to say, while we all agree that Gen Z is, very tech savvy, they are digital native, no two ways about that, but they're still relatively inexperienced, right? So how do we say with confidence that here's a generation which can take the mental um, without without necessarily knowing, what it takes to build a business? If
Mhm.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
So the education systems here in the US um, definitely lean a bit more into that prep than I was ever exposed to. But textbooks only take you so far, as we all know. Um, I think the preparation for the Gen Zs, similar to prepping a business for sale or transition of any sort, usually you'll hear from business brokers and attorneys and other people in that space say you need 5 years to get the business ready. They're typically referring to financial statements and processes and the like. Well, that's an opportunity for leadership and ownership to begin to lean in and through mentorship and a good solid well, it should frankly start on the day the younger generation comes in the door, but if that hasn't happened, create a mentorship program, not leadership, not management, not parenting, but actually create a mentorship program to bring these younger people along. And then once that's established, that can also continue. So this isn't focused so much on the bits and bytes and websites and products. This is truly nurturing this Gen Z, because we're talking about that, so that they're far more prepared to take the owner seat and truly understand what it's going to take um, from their own perspective to be a leader and a manager of the business.
So, Mary, one again on the subject of Gen Z, since in the context of small business owners, what have you experienced? There is a view. Obviously, it's a general view put on like we have with every generation. That here's a generation which gets disengaged very quickly. Here's a generation which has a short attention span. Here's a generation which is wanting quick success. So in your experience, how has that transition gone? Like, what have you seen that it fails, and perhaps places where it does succeed? What role does the elder generation play? And is there a timeline that you see that, okay, maybe there's a clear mandate set that, look, 2 to 3 years you will have to put in kind of the hard work before you can start commanding decisions, right? At the end of the day, you're still kind of getting groomed for it. So I'm just curious, what do you see? Do you see that the Gen Z aborts more quickly or quits in between? Because again, just looking at kind of the bigger perception that's been there. So,
Um, Actually, there's one client that comes to mind that was building something in the Web3 space and was doing an amazing job. But then, as we globally know, the timing of bringing this forward and the crumbling, that happened, I want to say, what is that, a year and a half ago, um, it ended up causing this business to fail. A quality I noticed in him is that he dusted himself off and is off and running with a new innovation. Um, so when we're looking at the failure, um, I don't think they take it so personally. Um, and I think there is something to be said, and there's a lot of successful companies that have been built by people really investing all of themselves in. But when they do fail, it leaves a bigger hole in the individual, and oftentimes, can become crippling. In this case, it was like, okay, didn't work out. What can I do next? How can you build on that? So when I think of what you were describing in the small business owners, I think building a solid team around individuals. And, I kind of think of Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited and Sarah's Pies, and she was working herself to death because she filled every single space in the org chart. And that a Gen Z is not up for. I think today when we have the virtual resources that we have, that we can build a solid team around the individual. And I think that can help a Gen Z stay focused. When things tend to get overwhelming and too big, because work-life balance for them is they don't live to work, they work to live. So as long as that can be set up, and I think we are set up to really lean into that, I think there is a greater chance. The other side to that is that the Gen Z, that may be an advantage because they are so innovative. If they then build this up and sell it off to somebody else to carry it forward, that frees them to create something new. Let's face it, the whole concept of side hustle was created by our youngest millennials and our Gen Zs.